Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I'd really appreciate it, and I'd be able to send watches like this to your inbox as soon as tomorrow morning. If you like this watch, you can buy it and 1,700 of its close friends on our website, thewatchbox.com. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches on thewatchbox.com. And today we are looking at an early 3800 ST Aeronavale from the Breguet Type 20 family. In 1994, the modern luxury civilian Type 20 was launched, and this was during the InvestCorp era of Breguet, and these watches are believed to be the high watermark of that entire era for the company. 39 millimeters in stainless steel, these were among the most desirable watches of the 90s from any brand. In this example with an original tritium dial, and you'll see on the opposite side the rare gold-capped Breguet crown often replaced with solid steel during service. But you can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, this is a traditionally sized men's chronograph. Though 39 millimeters in diameter, the lug-to-lug span is incredibly compact. At 45.5 millimeters, you could easily fit this watch on a wrist as small as 13 centimeters in circumference. It is truly a pleasure to wear. That said, it does have a reasonable thickness about it. With the dramatically domed sapphire, it is 14.5 millimeters thick, but because of the domed profile of that sapphire and the slope of the bezel, you should be able to slide it underneath any dress, jacket, cuff. Remove that little flake of dust there, and you can see the profile of the case is very handsome. More dress watch than sports watch. It's still 200 meters water resistant, and it has a robust modern Breguet factory strap, as you can see. Breguet to match the watch, a beautiful medium brown bolstered down the center with folded edges and a monotone stitch. It's a slightly reddish brown, very handsome, and nicely keyed to the tritium fade of the dial. On the underside, as you can see, matching calfskin, and a wonderful period piece from Breguet. It is a trigger deployant clasp, and as you can see, the trigger is moved laterally rather than in a pincer motion, so even the piece is redolent of its era. This is no longer the Breguet factory clasp. Everything about this watch, with the exception of the Lume hands, is original. So you're going to find it's a wonderful throwback to the era of grunge on your wrist. You'll also note that the case lines are distinctively Breguet, coined flanks, blended lugs, with an almost teardrop-like profile and an inward as well as a downward taper. You can see that inward taper when you examine the watch from the ends. You'll note that the case flanks, the superimposed lip of the case back, as well as the knurled edge of the bezel, fully intact. This watch has not been sanded down to a pebble by incompetent polishing. If anything, this case looks almost untouched over the years, and you can see that's compounded by the remainder of all original lacquer in the indices as well as the numerals of the bezel. Now there will be a Lume shot at the end of the video just to confirm that the hands at center are of the Luminova variety and that the dial is tritium as advertised. The bezel is a unidirectional action, so you can actually use it to time a second event. So you line up the index with the minute hand, and you will note that they are vintage-inspired syringe-style minute hands, and now you have a 0 to 60 minute timer that you can use in conjunction with the flyback chronograph function. Of course, traditional indices outboard of Arabic numerals in the fashion of the Type 20, as it's been produced first for the French Aeronavale from 1954 and since 1994 for you and me, the civilian market. You will note that there's a slight countersink to the subregisters, and it's somewhat difficult to see, but there is a little bit of a raised disc that forms the center dial, so there is a texture about the dial itself. It is not completely flat. You'll note that the minutes and seconds outboard are slightly raised from the hour track, and that center dial is itself raised against the hour track. All of the calibrations are easy to read. It still has that no-nonsense instrument aesthetic that makes contrast high and comprehension easy. I promised you the gold-capped vintage Breguet crown from the period, and sure enough, here it is. You know that this is a true survivor from the early 3800s, because the early 3800s had the tritium dial, the gold-capped crown, and they were 200 meter rather than 100 meters water resistant. And you can actually see on the case back 20 atmospheres, 200 meters water resistant, one of the earliest examples from the era of civilian Type 20 production. Underneath that caseback and secured by the screwed-in caseback and screw-down crown, our Breguet 582, born as the Lume 1350 in the 70s. It is a 48-hour automatic winding 4 Hertz chronograph with flyback functionality. And of course, this being the Aeronavale model, you do not have a date window. The Transatlantique, which was the 3820, featured a date window. The 3800, the purist's choice, with simple tri-registers. Chronograph hours, minutes, and seconds, as well as running seconds at 9 o'clock. A handsome and wearable modern vintage piece. It's amazing to think that this watch and this model, now 24 years old, I'm beginning to feel old handling this watch. That said, the style, like the Type 20 line itself, absolutely timeless. See this one and make it yours on the watch box. And we are back with the Type 20 3800 ST. Well, I promised you a tritium dial and Luminova hands, and there you go. The hands, often replaced as service items during the 90s and 2000s, give you the functionality of your watch at night. You can still tell the time while retaining the original fabric of the tritium dial and its gorgeous patina fade. See it on the watch box.